You ever wonder how your phone can just, instantly find that one photo you took 3 years ago? Or how your bank account is always perfectly up to date? Well, there's this hidden engine that powers pretty much our entire digital world, the database management system. So let's dive in and see exactly how this thing works.
I mean, seriously, just think about it for a second. Without any organization, our digital lives would be complete and utter chaos. It'd be like a library just throwing all its books into one giant pile. There's no way you'd ever find that specific photo, that one order confirmation, or that bank statement you really need. It would just be a massive, useless digital landfill.
So how do we actually solve this data chaos? Well, we use something that acts like a hyper-intelligent, infinitely huge digital filing cabinet. And that's really the core idea behind a database system. It's built from the ground up to bring perfect order to what would otherwise be an overwhelming mess.
Okay, so first things first, let's talk about the files themselves. A database. Well, it's simply that organized collection of information. You can think of it as all the neatly labeled folders and all the documents sitting inside our giant digital filing cabinet, all stored away on a computer.
But, right, a cabinet full of files isn't much use if you don't have someone to manage it. And that's where the Database Management System, or DBMS, comes in. This is the smart software, the digital librarian, if you will, that actually does all the work. It controls exactly how that data is stored, how it's organized, and how it gets found again.
So here's the crucial part. When we talk about a database in the real world, we're almost always talking about the whole package, the entire database system. That's the data itself plus the powerful software that manages it all. They work together, hand in hand, as one complete unit.
All right, so we've got this awesome, organized system, but why is it such a big deal? I mean, what makes it a real game changer? Well, a DBMS doesn't just store your data, it gives it actual superpowers.
And this is really where the magic happens. A DBMS, for example, stops you from having your address stored in 10 different places. That's minimizing redundancy. And it makes sure that when you do update your address in one place, it changes everywhere at once. That's consistency. It also provides security with things like usernames and passwords, makes it super simple to search for or change information, and it can enforce rules, like making sure a zip code field only accepts numbers. It is a total game changer for managing information.
So how does it actually do all of this? How does it perform all these tasks so well? Let's take a quick peek under the hood at the two main components that really make the whole system tick.
When it comes down to it, it's really a partnership between two incredibly important parts of the software. Each one has a very specific job to do.
This breaks it down perfectly. On one side, you've got the query processor. Think of it as the translator. It takes your request, something like find all my photos from last summer, and it translates that into simple step-by-step instructions the computer can actually follow. And on the other side, you've got the storage manager, our librarian, who takes those instructions and physically goes and finds the data on the computer's hard drive.
Right, so how do you talk to it? How do you tell this query processor what you're looking for? You can't just type in plain English. You need a special language, one that the system is built to understand perfectly every single time. And that language is SQL, which stands for Structured Query Language. It's basically the universal standard for talking to most database systems out there. You can think of it as the official grammar for asking questions and giving commands to your data.
Now, SQL itself is kind of split into two main parts. First, you have the Data Definition Language, or DDL. Think of this as the blueprint. You use DDL commands to build and define the actual structure of your database, creating the tables and setting up the rules. Then, you have the Data Manipulation Language, or DML. And this is all about the action. This is what you use for inserting, updating, searching for, and deleting the actual data that lives inside those tables. So, let's put all of these pieces together. Let's trace how a simple request flows through the entire system, from the moment you make it to the moment you get a result. It all happens in this simple four-step process. First, you write your request using SQL. Then, the query processor, our translator, interprets that command and comes up with a plan. After that, the storage manager, our librarian, executes that plan, actually finding or changing the data. And finally, the system sends back exactly what you asked for. Simple as that. So what is that storage manager really handling behind the scenes? Well, it's managing three key things. The actual data files, where all your information lives, something called a data dictionary, which is basically a map that explains what all the data means, and indexes.
And these are just like the index at the back of a book. They let the system find information incredibly fast without having to read through every single record. So ultimately, this is the main takeaway. A database management system isn't just a place to store stuff. It's all about transformation. It takes a useless, chaotic pile of data and turns it into a structured, secure, and unbelievably powerful resource that we can actually use.
And I'll just leave you with this final thought. From your social media feed to your online banking, from your favorite streaming service to your last online purchase, it is all powered by these systems. Now that you kind of see how they work, the real question is, can you think of any part of your digital life that doesn't rely on a database? I bet it's harder than you think.